There was a smattering of applause as Malcolm Fox entered the room. "Don't strain yourselves," he said, placing his scuffed briefcase on the desk nearest the door. There were 2 other complaints in the office. They were already getting back to work as Fox slipped out of his overcoat. 3 inches of snow had fallen overnight in Edinburgh. A similar amount had stopped London dead a week ago, but Fox had managed to get into work, and so, by the look of it, had everyone else. The world outside felt temporarily cleansed. There had been tracks in Grox's garden. He knew there was a family of foxes somewhere near his estate, the houses packed onto a municipal golf course. His nickname at Police HQ was Foxy, but he didn't think of himself that way. A bear of a man. That was the way one of his previous bosses had described him. Slow but steady, and only occasionally to be feared. Tony Cale, a bulging folder tucked beneath one arm, walked past the desk and managed to squeeze Fox's shoulders without dropping anything. "Nice one all the same," he said. "Thanks, Tony," Fox said. Lothian and Borders Police HQ was on Fettes Avenue. From some windows there were a view towards Fettes College. A few of the officers in the complaints had been to private schools, but none to Fettes. Fox himself had been educated largely free of charge. Borofmir, then Harriot Watt, supported Hearts FC, though seldom managed even a home fixture these days. Had no interest in rugby, even when the city played host to 6 Nations. February was 6 Nations month, meaning there would be hordes of the Welsh in town this weekend, dressed up as dragons and totting oversized inflatable leaks. Fox reckoned he would watch the match on TV, might even rouse himself to go down the pub. 5 years now he'd been off the drink, but for the past 2 he trusted himself with occasional visits. Only when he was in the right frame of mind, though, only when the willpower was strong. He hung up his coat and decided he could lose the suit jacket too. Some of his colleagues at HQ reckoned the braces were an affectation, but he lost the best part of a stone and didn't like belts. The braces weren't the shouty kind, dark blue against a plain light blue shirt. His tie today was deep dark red. He draped his jacket over the back of his chair, smoothed it at the shoulders and sat down, sliding the locks of the briefcase open, easing out the paperwork on Glenn Heaton. Heaton was the reason the complaints had summoned up the brief round of applause. Heaton was the result. It had taken Fox and his team the best part of a year to compile their case. That case had now been accepted by Procurator Fiscal's office, and Heaton, having been cautioned and interviewed, would go to trial. Glenn Heaton, 15 years on the force, 11 of them in CID, and for most of those 11, he'd been bending the rules to his own advantage, but he stepped too far over the line, leaking information not only to his pals in the media but to criminals themselves. And that brought him once more in the attention of the complaints. Complaints and Conduct, to give the office its full title. They were the cops who investigated other cops. They were the Soft Shoe Brigade, or Rubber Heels. Within the Complaints and Conduct was another smaller grouping, the Professional Standards Unit. While Complaints and Conduct worked the meat and potato stuff, grievances about patrol cars parked in disabled ways, or cop neighbors who played their music too loud, the PSU was sometimes referred to as the dark side. They sniffed out racism and corruption. They looked at bungs received and blind eyes turned. They were quiet and serious and determined, and had as much as power as they needed in order to do the job. Fox and his team were PSU. Their office was on a different floor from Complaints and Conduct, and a quarter of the size. Heaton had been under surveillance for months. His home phone tapped, mobile phone's record scrutinized, computer checked and checked again. All without his knowledge. He'd been tailed and photographed until Fox had known more about the man than his own wife did, right down to the lap dancer he'd been dating and the son from a previous relationship. A lot of cops asked the complaints the same question. How can you do it? How can you spit on your own kind? These were officers you worked with, or might work with in the future. These were, it was often said, the good guys. But there was a problem right there. What did it mean to be good? Fox had puzzled over that one himself, staring into the mirror behind the bar as he nursed another soft drink. It's us and them, Foxy. You need to cut corners sometimes, or nothing ever gets done. Have you ever never done it yourself? Whiter than white are you, the pure-driven? Not the pure-driven, no. Sometimes you felt swept along. Swept into the PSU without really wanting it. Swept into relationships, and then out again not too long after. He opened his bedroom curtains this morning and stared at the snow, wondering about phoning in and saying he was stuck. But then a neighbor's car had crawled past, and the lie had melted away. He had come to work, because that was what he did. He came to work and investigated cops. Heaton was under suspension now, albeit on full pay. The paperwork had been passed along to the Procurator Fiscal. That's that, then. Fox's other colleague was standing in front of the desk, hands bunched as usual in trouser pockets, easing back on his heel. Joe Naismith, 6 months in, still keen. He was 28, which was young for the complaints. Tony Cal's notion was that Naismith saw the job as a quick route towards management. The youngster flicked his head, trying to do something about the floppy fringe he had always been teased about. So far so good, Malcolm Fox said. He pulled a handkerchief from his trouser pocket and was blowing his nose. Drinks on you tonight, then? Over at his own desk, Tony Cal had been listening. He leaned back in his chair, establishing eye contact with Fox. Mine is nothing stronger than a milkshake for the Marine. He'll be after long trousers next. Naismith turned and lifted a finger from his pocket, just enough to give Cale the finger. Cale bucketed his lips, then went back to his reading. You're not in the bloody playground, a fresh voice growled from the doorway. Chief Inspector Bob McEvan was standing there. He sauntered in and grazed his knuckles against Naismith's small forehead. Haircut, young Joseph? What had I told you? Sir, Naismith mumbled. Heading back to his desk, McEvan was studying his wristwatch. 2 bloody hours and I was in that meeting. I'm sure a lot gone done, Bob. McEwan looked at Fox. Chief thinks there's a whiff of something skeptic up in Aberdeen. Any details? Not yet. Can't say I have any enthusiasm to see it in my in-tray. You friends in Grampian? I have friends nowhere, Foxy, and that's the way I like it. The Chief Inspector paused and seemed to remember something. Heaton? He inquired, watching Fox nod, slowly. Good. The way he said it, Fox knew the boss had qualms. Back in the midst of time, he worked alongside Glenn Heaton. McEwan was that the man had done solid work. Earned any advancement that came his way, a good officer for the most part. Good, McEwan said again, even more distantly. He roused himself with a roll on his shoulders. So what else have you got on today? Odds and ends? Fox was blowing his nose again. Have you not shifted that cold yet? It seems to like me. McEwan took another look at his watch. It's already gone lunchtime. Why not knock off early? Sir? Friday afternoon, Foxy. Might have something new starting Monday, so best get those batteries charged. McEwan could see that Fox was thinking. Not in Aberdeen, he stated. What then? Could well peter out over the weekend, McEwan offered his shrug. We'll talk Monday. He made to move away, but hesitated. What did Heaton say? He just gave me one of those looks of his. I've seen men run for the hills when he does that. Not me, Bob. No, not you. McEwan's face creased into a smile as he made for the far corner of the room at his own desk. Tony Cale had tipped back in his chair again. The man has ears as sharp as any bit of electronic kit. If you're heading off home, leave me that tenner. What for? Those drinks you owe us. 12 pence for me and a milkshake for the barn. Jay Naismith checked that his boss wasn't rushing, then gave Cale the finger again.
Like it, check it out, and see you Friday.